up next, he came down all the way from Columbia, South Carolina. Please do me a favor, put your hands together for Christian Williams.
So James,
Totally Awesome Bar, what's up? Yeah, make some noise. Let's get right into it. I don't think white people are mad enough about Hamilton. Right? I'll be damned if when I'm 50 years old, my kids drag me to see some musical about the Underground Railroad to a pop-punk theme, right, with an all-white cast talking about some, I got your freedom, I'm coming with you, dear Tubman, let me in, right? Like, I don't want to have my little milk chocolate mulatto children coming home singing some shit out of their AirPods like, oh, well imagine as I'm out in the field and I'm picking some cotton and I can't help but to hear, no, I can't help but to hear an exchanging of words. Where the fuck is Jamal? Where the fuck is Jamal? Says the slave master to Greg, right? Like, I don't want to turn on the radio to hear some remix of Stacy's mom talking about Master's wife has got it going on. What's up? In case you didn't know it, it's pretty cool to be black. The other day I was at a red light. I see another black guy, we're both jamming out, right? And I just know he was listening to a love song by Sarah Bareilles too. Right? Like, the coolest moment of my life, I got to go to an all-white wedding in Des Moines, Iowa, right? It's like I brought rhythm to the state of Iowa, right? Like, it was like I was like a magician when I taught them how to do the Cupid shuffle. Right, like I know it was going well. It's the only time in my life an old 6-year-old white man came up to me and he said, you have to meet my daughter. Last year during the pandemic, I know it was probably hard for a lot of you guys like it was for me. So I started therapy last year. It takes me through my childhood highs and lows. I call it Disney Plus. Right, the other day I'm watching Mulan, the scene where she's about to go to war for her family. Right, she's weeping, I'm weeping. Right, because I've never sacrificed anything for my family. So the next day I cashed out my mom $10. Told she was a girl worth fighting for. And then, right, like there's also a show on there, I don't know if you guys, we got any fans of The Mandalorian in here? Yeah! Right, that restored my faith in that people could have good dads, right? So like The Mandalorian, I've decided to kidnap a small white child and raise him as my own. Right, and why is my white child, you ask? There's 1,000 back here because you can give a tiny little white boy, right? Endless amounts, right? And I also, if he's chubby, I work with children and I've learned that chubby kids are magic, right? Like I have this little fat boy I work with, always has snacks. Loose snacks, never in packaging, but his M&Ms come at that level where they melt right in your mouth as soon as they get in there. And the other day I was hanging out with him and he had a hole in the middle of his shirt and he said, sometimes you just gotta let the belly button breathe. Right, and if those aren't words to live by, I don't know what is. We got any single people in the crowd? Very recently I realized something about myself being single. I realized that like I'm the Olive Garden of sex, right? Like pretty decent ambiance, right? I'm offering unlimited soup and breadsticks, right? A lot of foreplay, right? But when you strip that away, it's the same meal you get at Applebee's or Chili's, right? Like there's no difference in the two products. And you're like, Christian, that's not something I want on my 20th anniversary, right? But on a Wednesday night, after a lot of wine and some breadsticks, that meal starts looking pretty fucking good, doesn't it, right? And you're like, Christian, people only go to Olive Garden for the breadsticks. I know, that's why we made the breadsticks so good, right? I don't know how to cook the rest of the fucking meal, it's complicated. Another thing I realized is that I'm probably single because I'm like dating a child. I like doing these things I call pranks, but nobody really finds them pranks. Like one of my favorite is, like if you're dating someone and you've been in a long relationship, right, like 6 months or more, right, and you're making out very heavily, I like to breathe as hard as I can into their mouth out of nowhere, right? And if you've never seen a fucking person choke on air when they weren't expecting it, you haven't truly lived, right? Another one of these pranks I do is sometimes if me and my girlfriend are bringing groceries to our apartment, she's jiggling around with the keys, and people come around the corner, I go, oh shit, they know we're stealing, and push her into the door and run away, right? Because she's embarrassed. What I like to do is embarrass women. That sounds very bad. Erase that from your minds that I said that out loud. But it's hard dating, like anybody on the dating apps, I'm assuming a lot of you guys are, it's hard to describe the most dateable thing about me, right? Which is I'm the best first black guy to bring home, right? 4 out of 5 conservative dads agree I'm better than the competition. And it's crazy because in high school I had a lot of dads that were like worried about what I was doing with their daughter, right? But if me and your daughter were upstairs, she was just telling me about her real boyfriend, right? Like me and your dad wanted the same thing in high school. We wanted your boyfriend to stop fucking you by any means necessary, right? We just sleep none at all on Friday nights thinking about what you're doing in the back of that Jeep Grand Cherokee. Oh my gosh. I had the worst sexual experience of my life right before the pandemic started. It started out making out very dehydrated, right, which is a lot like suffocating very softly. And then I proceeded to have mediocre sex with someone I don't care about, right? Which is a lot like going to Myrtle Beach, right? Like you're at the beach, but you'd rather be at any other beach in the world, right? And you yell Hilton Head and she's confused and you're confused. And then at the end of this experience, I finished first because that's how my dad taught me how. And then she asked if I would finish her orally, and I'm a gentleman, so I obliged. And then she proceeded to lady come in my mouth, which is not like those cool videos on the internet. It's warm, it tastes a lot like urine. And then a week later, I was in a Publix, and I was reading out a Vogue magazine, as I do from time to time in a Publix. And did you know women fake 7 out of 10 orgasms? I know, astounding. And now I have to live the rest of my life wondering if that girl peed in my mouth to make me think I was doing a good job. Which if that's how we're handling this, I would much prefer constructive criticism. If you haven't gotten the vibe, I'm awkward sexually. A woman once said to me, she said, you can be as rough or as wild as you want in bed, right? Which is a pretty wild thing to say to a guy who normally wears Crocs with gibbets in them, right? Like, I recently laughed in my 20s while fingering a girl because it reminded me of Silly Putty, right? I'm not the guy to choke you with eye contact, right? I both believe in and am afraid of ghosts. I'm not the guy to tie you up and call you a dirty little slut, right? I recently cried in a bubble bath while listening to Rascal Flatts. I'm not the guy to blow your back out. Right, like, we continued talking and she asked me what my wildest sexual fantasy was. And I was uncomfortable talking to that young lady about that, but I'm comfortable in this room full of strangers. My wildest sexual fantasy is basically the plot of a Hallmark Christmas movie, right? At 50, my wife dies of some unknown disease. I move out of Colorado, I'm doing good for myself. I open up a bed and breakfast, right? Big snowstorm comes in. Oh my God, hot businesswoman from New York, snowed in for 2 months. We fall in love as I slowly teach her the magic of Christmas. What's up, guys? This story's getting really good. Right, and then on Christmas Eve, after we worked all day, donating turkeys to the homeless, right? We make sweet love after making gingerbread men. And this girl said, like, that seems like a lot to get you off, right? And I was like, no, you don't understand. You're the wife that dies at the beginning, right? You're of key importance to the plot. I think capitalism has gone too far. Someone charged me to go into a plantation the other day, right? Like the whole ride there, I'm with my friends, like there's no fucking way they charge me when I walk up there, right? White lady looks me dead in my eyes, says $30. Extra 10 if you want to see how the slaves lived, right? And, you know, I gave my money because I thought, like, maybe this goes to a museum or something. Later out on the tour, I found that money goes out to the family that still owns that plantation, right? Crazy. And a lot of you are like, Christian, why didn't you stand up for yourself? No one in here has ever heard a good story that started with, once upon a time, a young black man started yelling at a plantation, right? That story goes about 100 out of 100 times. White women, I discovered your secret to anxiety over the pandemic, right? It's called HGTV, fellas, if you haven't seen it, right? There's nothing more common than watching the same 3 married couples look at the same 3 houses over and over again, right? And, like now I've gotten rid of my sound machine, I fall asleep to the voice of 2 heterosexual, pretty homosexual brothers, sell property. Like they have this thing that is very popular now, tiny homes. Someone in here probably lives in one, right? But you know who you never see in tiny homes is black people, right? Because we'll be damned if you throw pastel colors on a double wide, try to charge us double the price, right? You're not just gonna throw some fucking antiques in your aunt's old single wide and try to charge us $10,000. That's not going down. That was, all right. We're gonna do a really fun bit. This is one of my favorites. Anybody sick of arguing with people on Facebook? Yeah. The other day, a guy on Facebook posted some shit. He said, "White privilege is a myth," right? That's a pretty bold statement when magicians exist, right? Like no one in here knows a black or minority magician, right? Like you may know a black person that does magic, right? But that's voodoo or witch doctor. Very different careers, right? Like there are things that are only like if you don't believe in white privilege, you've never been on Etsy or YouTube, right? Like any white person with decent Wi-Fi and a pretty good camera can sell anything they want on the internet, right? Like there are careers that are only made for white people, right? Like a cover band, right? Like you don't see every light-skinned black dude out here trying to pretend to be Drake, right? Like it'll be wild, right? If you just went to some bar for a show, right? And you show up, there's some guy doing costume karaoke, right? Just dressing up, pretending to be somebody else that he's not really at all. This is a lot easier in my house when no one's watching. Right? Could you imagine? You show up on a first date to go watch what you think is an original band, and instead of just somebody pretending to be somebody, it got so quiet in here. You guys are really excited for what's pretty mediocre, right? Can you imagine like some bullshit? Hold on, okay. We gotta do that. Well, there it is. Technical difficulties. Oh, there it is. Got it. Right? Like I couldn't just make money doing some shit like there's a long name. Almost came in too early right there. Well, I ain't never in the bar at all time. No, I don't swig that sweet champagne. I'd rather drink beer all night in a tavern or in a honky-tonk or in a four-wheel drive tailgate. I got posters on my wall of Leonard getting straight. Some people look down on me, but I don't give a rip. I stand there running in my own front yard with a baby on my hip, 'cause I'm a redneck woman. I ain't no high-class broad. I'm just a product of my raising. I say, hey y'all and hee-haw, and I creep my Christmas lights on the front porch all year long. And I know every word to every Charlie Daniels song. So here's to all my sisters out there keeping it country. Let me get a big hell yeah from the redneck girls like me. Hell yeah! That's not a career, white people! What are you doing? What are you teaching your children? That's not viable. Learn a skill or a trade. Don't pretend to be somebody else.
Thank you, Clinton!
Doing comedy wasn't my original dream. My hopes and dreams were crushed by an asshole on a cold night in November 2008. He goes by the name Barack Obama. Right, like I wanted to be the first black president, and then here comes this smooth talking bastard from Chicago. All he did was ruin my hopes and crush my dreams. There's a lot different feeling with this cowboy hat on. Right, like, but for people that don't understand it, like my grandmother was the first black nurse to graduate from our college program. Also the first black nurse at our home hospital back in Asheville. I know, and she won't shut the fuck up about it, right? Like I have nothing to bring to the table in any family holidays, right? She controls the conversation with the whole I did history thing. Right? That's also the first joke I told my mom. She hated it. She says the way I speak about my grandma, she said, no, that bitch doesn't know how to shut up. She says it's the way you comment on that smooth, suave man, Barack Obama. And I said, we're doing some weird things with the adjectives here, right? And I was like, Mom, you don't know what it's like to have someone come and ruin and crush your hopes and dreams out of nowhere, right? She said, you don't know what an unplanned pregnancy is. So at the end of the day, I did get to be someone's Barack Obama. It was just my mom's. I have a new dream now. I hope to one day give a TED Talk out there in California. I hope to one day walk out on stage in a black turtleneck, some slick black dress pants, right? And I go, hi, my name is Dr. Williams. I have a PhD in something you can't fathom or understand. And I'm going to explain to you why sharks are the black people of the ocean. And it's hard for sharks because they're painted as these violent creatures. Yet no one in here knows anyone that's been attacked by a shark, right? Like, you always are running away from sharks, right? Like, it's like when white people cross the street when they think I'm being violent, right? And I'm just listening to the Tarzan soundtrack with Phil Collins, right? Like, you're in the ocean, that's where sharks live. Don't be afraid. right? Like, you're more likely to die of a lot of other things than to be murdered or attacked by a shark, right? You're more likely to die falling out of bed. You're more likely to die choking on mayonnaise. You're more likely, actually, to be raped by a dolphin than you are to be murdered or attacked by a shark. Which brings me to my second point. Dolphins are the white men of the ocean. The statistics would horrify and astound you. Guys, we got any teachers in the crowd or anybody that works with kids?
Yeah.
Hey, I also work with kids. I'm a substitute teacher, and like most of you, we get bored at work working with kids, so I like to get high. One day I left the school to go get an edible, and before you judge me, no, I left the public school for 2 hours as a teacher. Nobody noticed, right? Like, that would never happen at a private school. 5 minutes into me missing, they'd be like, "Where's the black guy? Has anyone checked the computer lab?" Right? And like, they had me teaching calculus. I don't know anything past Algebra 1. So instead, we listened to some Frank Ocean. We turned it into a music appreciation course, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and then we watched some Prince music videos. It turned into a sexual awakening course. Yeah, so I love working with kids. I know this story. I work at a summer camp. It's part of a charitable program that helps with racial diversity. So I go teach Jewish kids how to play basketball, and they send a guy to teach us finances, right? And when we're there with the kids, we take the 13-year-old boys to Niagara Falls, and we take them to a haunted house while they're there. And to make them feel more comfortable, we all wear dresses, right? So I show up slick black, tight sweater, dress, right? Glasses on. What no one told me is that we were supposed to bring a change of clothes, right? So then I spent the next 4 hours walking 4 little Jewish boys around Niagara Falls, right? And the nickname they had for me at that point in the summer was Papa Chris, right? So things are looking real bad as these little boys are running up, "Papa Chris, Papa Chris, Papa Chris." And then one of them starts to cry because they haven't seen their parents in a long time. And they go, "Man, I just really miss my mom and my dad." And I had to get down on the level with that little boy and I had to go, "Not the fucking time." And so I cheered up a 13-year-old boy the only way I know how. I took him to Hooters and told him it was his birthday. He had a fantastic time. They gave him a little balloon. I've been Christian Williams. You guys have a good night.